the Maori kid, J.J. Wilson.
How's it going, guys?
Friend, how are you? How are you doing today?
I'm doing amazing. What about yourself?
I'm doing well. Let's get started on this fight. On next Friday, you are going to face Pedro Carvalho. Can I ask, at one point on Wikipedia, on the Bellator 257, there was J.J. Wilson versus Pedro Carvalho and Daniel Weichel versus Pedro Carvalho. Are you stepping in for Weichel as a replacement, or was that fight never booked?
That fight was never booked. I know they were planning on having that fight. I don't know what happened within that fight, but I asked for Pedro Carvalho, and they said that he is available on the state. And so that's kind of how that came about.
How do you view Carvalho as an upcoming style matchup?
I think my style, I think I beat him pretty much everywhere. I thought this would be a great fight for me. You know, he's a very tough fighter. He is a bigger name than me, and I think that was a great way for me to step into from being a prospect into a contender. I thought he would be the perfect guy to beat.
Yeah. What do you think about his style, if you like? Where do you think this fight is going to primarily be fought?
You know, he's a grappler, but I'm interested to see how if he's gonna want to grapple with me.
Yeah.
I have higher grappling credentials than he has, and I feel like my grappling is a lot more dominant than he is. So I'm actually interested to see how he's gonna play out this fight. Maybe he'll make it a striking match, and then I might put an upset.
Did the Pedro Carvalho's last fight for the title against Patricio Pitbull, did that change your opinion of him at all?
No, Pitbull's a tough guy. I think he's a tough fight for pretty much anyone who goes in on him, that fights him. He has the power to knock pretty much anyone out. So, Pedro just got caught, and that happens to everybody. Everyone gets caught. So, has he recovered off that? I don't know. So I'm going to be looking to exploit that.
Is that something that you're looking to exploit? Perhaps is mental 100%. Side of the game, maybe
mental and physical. For a knockout like that, you need 6 months at the least.
Yeah.
To allow your brain to fully recover. Some doctors will recommend a year.
Yeah.
So, we'll see.
It is quite a fast turnaround. It wasn't something that I'd actually thought about, but it is quite a fast turnaround from that knockout loss to Pitbull.
Yeah, that was actually quite recent. I think that was less than 6 months, no?
I think it was in the end of November.
Yeah, so yeah. I fought a couple weeks after that fight.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was quite recent. It wasn't a year ago, 8 months ago,
That was something I wanted to talk about, your last fight, the 20-second knockout. What does it feel like getting a knockout in 20 seconds?
Oh, it feels amazing, it kind of feels surreal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it happened, you're like, oh shit, that happened. You know what I mean? Like, oh fuck, that landed. Okay. I was actually I was ecstatic. It felt amazing. It's hard to describe it. All I can say was it was surreal.
I've heard a few people say with an early knockout, it's almost slightly lackluster because you've trained for so long for 20 seconds, in your case, in the cage. Did you feel that in any way?
What do you mean by that?
As in lackluster, so you've trained for so many weeks, you've worried about this fight for so long, you've had the pre-fight nerves, and you've been in there for less than 30 seconds.
I think that's why we do all of that, right? Because in my opinion, I'd rather be in there 5 seconds.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. We don't get paid by the minute. You know what I mean? We get paid to go in there and finish the guy. So if I can go in there and finish the guy in 5 seconds, that means that my preparation was right, was correct. Everything, my training, my diet, my mental preparation, everything that I've done was right. You know what I mean? If I write it all down and repeat it, then it's just like baking a cake, right? You can just keep redoing it to the next guy, to the next guy, to the next guy.
Yeah, and that's the
Because you
plan
have
for
the recipe. You have the recipe for success, you know?
and that's the plan for Pedro Carvalho on this Friday.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. This fight is very interesting because it's your first fight, or a lot of guys' first fights with these new rankings for Bellator. Number 7 versus number 4. Does that bring any extra impetus to the fight, knowing that you could move up the divisional ladder?
You know, I didn't know if I was ranked or not before this ranking system came out. I knew when I was fighting Tyron Claxton that Tyron Claxton possibly could have been in the top 10.
Yeah.
So, because at the time they didn't have a ranking system. Yeah. But prior to me taking this fight, that was before the ranking system came out. Yeah. But I knew Pedro would be ranked pretty high. He just fought he just fought Patricio Pitbull. So considering that, I was assuming that he was, within the top 5 in the eyes of Bellator. Yeah. And I didn't know where I sat. So when I saw the rankings, I was like, I was happy that I was a top 10 fighter and that I was getting an opportunity to fight ranked number 4. Obviously with the Grand Prix going on, there's no opportunities for everyone that's outside of the Grand Prix to get a title shot until the Grand Prix is finished. So what that means, the division's on hold. So that means everyone's fighting for that number 1 spot. If we just saw Adam just won, Adam Broach just won against Jeremy Kennedy last night, which in my mind, he's ranked number 3. That solidifies his spot as ranked number 3. And I would see that as ranked number 1 contender, right? Because Manuel Sanchez just lost and AJ McKee will be fighting him in the Grand Prix final. So, after this fight, I'll be looking to fight the number 1 contender. So when the Grand Prix is over, I can get that belt.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about the Grand Prix. Now, there was 16 guys in the Grand Prix, and the final obviously hasn't played out yet, but 14 of them have recently had a loss, if you think about it like that.
Yes.
With that being said, it must be an opportunistic time for yourself, because you haven't lost recently, whereas so many of the guys in the top end of the division have, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so when the Grand Prix started, I wasn't a signed fighter with Bellator.
Yeah.
I had 1 or 2 fights with Bellator, so I didn't have the opportunity of getting in the Grand Prix, but I think it actually benefited me because it put me in the position that I'm in today, where Manuel Sanchez, AJ McKee, the top 2 guys just fought the champ and they all have losses on the record. And in my mind, you can't come off a loss straight into a title fight. Adam lost to Darren Caldwell, but then he's redeemed himself. I think it's 2 or 3 fights since then. He's won, I think it's 3 that he's won since that has happened. So that puts him back in the contender realm, So with me not losing all my fights consecutively, it puts me in a great opportunity to actually get there before other people get to come back. Like Manuel Sanchez to fight again is going to have 2 or 3 more fights. If AJ McKee wins or loses, if he loses, he's going to have 1 or 2 more fights and then fight for the title again. If Pitbull loses, he's going to have 1 or 2 more fights. Maybe not. Maybe he'll get a rematch right away because he is the 155 champ, right? So they'll, he's a special case. It's kind of like Conor McGregor, right? It's a special case.
Yeah.
He says, "Hey, I want a rematch." He gets a rematch because of. So I think it put me. This Grand Prix actually put me in a great position.
Yeah, I have often thought about that and thought that the Grand Prix is kind of do or die, if you like, and with some of the guys like yourself who have not been in the Grand Prix but have still been rising, you guys might be left with some of the spoils, if that makes sense.
Yeah, to be in the Grand Prix is probably the best thing because you get, you get everything if you win.
Yeah.
But if you lose, it's like, oh well,
Yeah.
life's not over. So, but there's the big $1 million prize at the end. And of course, you would have the Grand Prix bout and the division bout, which is what everyone is striving for. But if you weren't able to get into the Grand Prix, but you continue flourishing, you get put in a better position.
Yeah.
Because all the best fighters are all on a loss now.
Yeah.
So you get to jump the line.
Yeah, of course. Out of interest, who have you got for the Grand Prix final and the world title fight?
I think Pitbull has it. I think Pitbull is going to win. AJ McKee's going to put up a tough fight, but I think it can go either way. But my money's on Pitbull.
Yeah, it's difficult to bet against him at this point, isn't it?
Definitely, yeah. He's definitely proved himself. It's hard.
Other than when you're in there with him.
Counting... What was that?
Other than when you're eventually in there with him.
Oh, when I'm in there with him, all my money's on me, right? I think with AJ McKee is very, very AJ McKee is really unpredictable.
Yeah.
And explosive. So I'm not counting him out. I believe AJ McKee has the tools to win as well. But I'd put money on Pitbull.
Yeah, of course. And something you mentioned there I wanted to touch on is you've kind of been one of these guys at 7-0 that has kind of grown up in Bellator a little bit. You've had 6 of your 7 fights in the company. How much do you think it has benefited you as a young developing pro fighting in one of the biggest organizations?
I think it benefited me a lot. It put me in great positions. I debuted with them when I was 18, 19.
Yeah.
I was really young. And that was actually my pro debut. And it was in the undercard in San Diego. That it was, for me, it automatically put me one step ahead.
Yeah.
It allowed me to be able to be a contracted fighter a lot easier than if I were to go to, say, LFA, and because all these they have really, really tough fighters to get an opportunity to fight in Bellator or the UFC. So with that alone, I got already a head start, which I was very lucky to do. I have a lot of friends that are 8-0 and they haven't fought in UFC or Bellator, and they're still getting paid like $300, not even that. Some people are just getting ticket sales to go and fight, and they're pros. So I definitely felt like I got a great opportunity.
Yeah, of course. And obviously the fight next Friday is at the top of your mind. But what other goal do you have? Any other goals in mind for 2021? Any opponents or anything else that you want to accomplish?
I want to have the bout all be scheduled for a title bout by the end of the year. For a title shot. That is my goal. I think it's really achievable. The Grand Prix should be finished pretty soon, which means that the title, the champ, whoever the champ is either got to defend the bout or hand the bout over, right? Because they've pretty much put the whole division on hold for over a year now. So either way, I want to be scheduled to have the bout by the end of the year or be fighting for the bout early 2022.
If you beat Pedro Carvalho, I would presume that you would take his number 4 spot. That would obviously leave Pitbull as the champ, McKee number 1, and then Sanchez 2, and Adam Boric 3. Would you, at that point, be interested in the Sanchez or the Boric fight? And does one take preference for you at all?
See, with the ranking standing right now, I think Burch has he will practically be the number one contender.
Yeah.
Right now because Manuel Sanchez just lost, and the actual number one contender is fighting next.
Yeah.
So technically, he is next in line for the title shot. So I think I will have to fight Burch before I get a title opportunity. So I'll probably fight Burch, fight the champ, and then I'll look to fight Manuel Sanchez, and then possibly move up to 155 and be the champ.
Is that in your future? Do you think making the move up to lightweight?
Yeah, I'm naturally a bigger guy for the division. Most guys at 145 are 5'6", 5'7". I'm 5'11". I got a quite solid build, and I'm still young. I don't want to. I'm still currently growing, so I don't want to hurt my growth by cutting so much weight. Because each weight cut is getting harder and harder and harder. So going up a weight division for me, it would be perfect.
With that being said about the weight cuts getting harder and harder, is it a case of lightweight is inevitable at some point?
Definitely. I'll definitely be moving up to lightweight within within my career.
Yeah, of course. Well, let's, for one final question, turn the conversation back to Friday's fight. JJ, give me a prediction for when you get locked in there with Pedro Carvalho. What happens?
First round submission.
First round submission?
Yes, sir.
Are you going to break your record of 20 seconds?
Hopefully. I'm going to try. I always, if I'm going for something less than 20 seconds, it has to be a knockout. Yeah. I will have to be a knockout. But yeah. I think this one's going to get dragged out a little bit longer, but I don't see it going into the second round. If it goes into the second round, he's going to be exhausted, and I'll finish him in the second.
Okay, superb. Well, it's a fantastic fight. Number 7 versus number 4. And I very much look forward to seeing you back in action on Friday night.
Yeah, have a good one.
Before we finish, JJ, how can people find you on social media?
You can go to my Instagram at the Moldy Kid. The same on Twitter and Facebook, the Moldy Kid.
And before we finish, is there anything you would like to say or sign off with at all?
No, that's it.
Superb. Well, very much enjoyed talking to you today, JJ, and I wish you the best of luck Friday night.
Thank you very much.